When we're talking about a gastric bypass, the anatomy of the surgery is a little bit more complex. We divide the stomach into two parts, and food will come down the esophagus into a small stomach pouch and then down one loop of intestine, which is connected to the other loop which contains the digestive enzymes. And you essentially create a Y-shaped connection between the small intestines so that food comes down one end, the enzymes come down the other, and they meet down at that Y. This surgery takes about 75 minutes, so a little bit longer than a sleeve, but not much more longer. Has a 2% serious complication rate for most patients. Still 1 night in the hospital, and I always say 1 to 3 week recovery, indicating that it might be a little bit more of a recovery from a sleeve, but honestly, the difference really is measured in a day or two at the most. Gastric bypass patients often are back at work within 1 week after surgery, doing very well. This surgery is a better weight loss surgery than a gastric sleeve. We'll see more durable weight loss, and we'll see more weight loss. Typically about 10% of your total body weight is in addition to a sleeve. So if you're 200 pounds, you would lose 20 more pounds with a gastric bypass than you would with a sleeve gastrectomy. Another really important thing about a gastric bypass is we will see almost complete resolution of any heartburn symptoms because the majority of the acid in the stomach is here, and when we divide the stomach, it just can't get up to the esophagus. It's blocked. And so in patients who have significant acid reflux, this is a fantastic surgery. Some important things and limitations about this surgery is you cannot take any NSAIDs, no Advil, Aleve, ibuprofen, or aspirin after surgery. There is also absolutely, positively no smoking. Vaping is a little more of a complicated decision, but smoking cigarettes after this surgery is strictly prohibited and will create great amounts of discomfort for you and for the surgeon as well, trying to help you out and generally running into a stone wall, because once you smoke after the surgery, you'll develop stomach problems that are very difficult to resolve. There's also a 4% rate of alcoholism. So I counsel all my patients on avoiding alcohol as much as possible, ideally avoiding it completely after the surgery. In my opinion, the only safe amount of alcohol to drink after surgery is no alcohol. Now, sometimes people will ignore me, and I get it. Alcohol is part of our daily life for many people and part of celebrations. And so my second rule, if you're not able to follow that one, is you cannot drink more after surgery than you did before. And you have to be very careful with alcohol to make sure that you don't develop alcoholism. With gastric bypass, we also see something called dumping syndrome. Dumping syndrome is where if you eat fatty, greasy, overly sugary foods, it'll go right through you and create all kinds of GI distress. If you eat healthy foods, we really don't see that same level of distress. You can eat those typically very comfortably. There is a 1% risk of marginal ulcers that form right here between the connection of the stomach and the small intestine. Those are typically caused by smoking, by alcohol use, by the NSAID use, Advil, Aleve, ibuprofen, aspirin. But in a small group of patients, we can see them without any of those risk factors. There is a 3% risk of bowel obstruction, which really sounds terrifying, but for the majority of patients is while not pleasant, is a very manageable condition. You develop significant abdominal pain. I tell all of my gastric bypass patients, I'm your abdominal pain doctor from this point forward. If you have severe abdominal pain, I don't care if it's 5 years, 10 years later, I want to be involved in the decision making. If patients have a bowel obstruction, I can fix this in 20 or 30 minutes, and I can have them back at work within a week. It's usually a one-night hospital stay to get this addressed. But the key is prompt and early diagnosis. And then the most common thing we see is iron deficiency. We'll see up to 25% of our patients, particularly women of childbearing age or still menstruating, will develop iron deficiency. And it is important to supplement your iron regularly and to check your iron regularly. If it's low, take a bariatric iron supplement. Those are much more helpful. So